Because I'm now halfway through, that means I've got to name 25 states that I haven't. So I'll use this as a guide, even though I could just use the internet because it's right in front of me. Hello! Sometimes on this channel I like to ask questions such as, why is James Corden? And it occurred to me that you, the viewer, sometimes like to ask questions such as, Lawrence, what do you think of James Corden? Long-time fans of the channel may remember that I used to do a Q&A series called Ask a Brit. And so today begins a new monthly Q&A series called Lawrence Answers Stuff. That is really poor. We'll think of something else. Over the last week, my team, which is basically me, scoured through all of the most recent comments under my YouTube channel to find some of your most pressing questions. Here, in no particular order, are 10 of them. Alright, first question comes from Mark, who asks, did you realise when you were in Pittsburgh that you were about 50 miles from the Flight 93 Memorial and the site of the Q Creek Mine? And my answer to that question is yes and no. Yes to the first part, I knew about the Flight 93 Memorial, and no to the Q Creek Mine because, weirdly, I'd never heard of it. I suppose the events of the Q Creek Mine, which apparently took place in 2002, when 9 miners were trapped inside a mine for over 70 hours, happened before my time. Not before my time. I mean, I was born by then. I'm just saying my time in the United States. There were some immediate pieces of history that did occur here that I would certainly have heard of had I already lived in the United States, right? You do. You just pick up local news or you pick up sort of national news that doesn't make it overseas. And this would have been one of those things. At least I think so. I don't remember this news story. So I didn't know about Q Creek Mine to check it out. Of course, I think most of us know about the events of September the 11th, 2001. Remember that like it was yesterday in many ways. And I did know about Flight 93 Memorial to the extent that we actually went to it. I just didn't want to include it in the Pennsylvania video because I actually want to address that in a later video. It didn't fit the tone really of what I was going for in the Pennsylvania video. I wanted that to be kind of a more upbeat video that included humor. Clearly, if you're addressing something like the Flight 93 Memorial, and it's not going to be a funny video, right? But it is going to be one, I think, that recollects some of my own sort of thoughts on that. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, and thank you for it, Mark. Next one comes from Chris. What was this filmed using? And I think Chris was specifically referring to my Route 66 video, but you could apply this to most of my videos now, but specifically to the Pennsylvania video recently. I got a lot of comments from people saying, this was amazing. I know, just chill. It was great. But that was mostly my mum and other people we paid. But, you know, it's fine. I think it looked better. I think it looked good. And it's because, you know, recently I've been using new camera equipment, specifically a new camera, which we've had now for about a year, but we've added lenses onto it. It is a Canon Rebel T7i, for those of you asking. I haven't been using my phone to film these landscapes and stuff. It really is sort of the higher tech that we've been using. And I should say, I should do a shout out, I suppose, to the people that allowed me to get this very camera, and that's my patrons. They've allowed me to improve all of this tech to the point where I can produce videos that hopefully are striking. And when I end up in, you know, who knows where next, Little Rock, Arkansas, that's not a plan. That will happen. It was just the first thing that came to my head. So don't start booking hotels for me just yet. We'll take care of that anyway, so it's fine. This is what we'll be using, and it's my patrons that I thank for that. All right, the next question comes from Robert, who asks, what do Brits call that rough-skinned golden fruit from Hawaii? I understand only Americans call it a pineapple. The rest of the world has another name for it. And you're absolutely right, Robert. In Britain, we call this a juice oval. Juice oval. And juice ovals are without doubt my favourite fruit to put on pizza. In fact, if I could have it my way, a pizza would be just a slice of juice oval with juice oval on top of it. Everything I've just said is a lie. Firstly, never put this on pizza. Secondly, we call it pineapple. You know, I don't know of any other word for it. I mean, maybe I've just coined one, and if you want to start using it, I wouldn't be upset. But I thought it was a good question to include because, I spend so much time on this channel talking about the differences in terminology that sometimes it's worth pointing out that the vast majority of words in British and American English are the same. And I just don't think we do enough to address that. K.A. Fleury asks, where did you get married? And the truth is, I don't remember. It was a long time ago. Did we even get married? We did, right. This is all for humor. Don't take where are you going? We got married in a city called Anderson, Indiana, and the thing about that was it was inside this courthouse, and I remember this like it was yesterday too. The smell of the procedural forms, the handshake of the judge. It was all so romantic, and I had the flu, so that made it perfect. And so instead of saying I do, it was more like I do, right? Which is not English. And so the judge kind of did that polite thing where he just sort of nodded. That's all the approval we needed to say that we are now married. On a similar topic, this question comes from John, who asks, did you make her laugh when you first met her? You guys should do more videos together. I enjoy watching your videos. Thank you, John. And when we first met, she was rolling on the floor in hysterics. She couldn't believe how funny I was. Right, that's my version of events. She will tell you that she was laughing. Whether it was with me is another question altogether, but she was certainly laughing and hasn't stopped since. Sometimes you have to laugh through the pain. I understand that. But I do remember when we first met, I was still a bit of a joker, a bit of a prankster, not in that sort of way that is annoying on YouTube, but in a way that's annoying in a marriage. And I think most couples are like this, but specifically when you're a British-American couple, the humour revolves around some of the language differences that you have, so hence my channel. And I do remember there being a bit of back and forth banter on that. But if you live together for 13 years, you probably either develop a sense of chemistry or you had it to begin with. And I think that lends itself well to the videos that we do together, and some would say our marriage. Susan asks, when did you make your first video? And the answer to that question in terms of Lost in the Pond would be May of 2015. The channel's getting old. It's 6 now. It's nearly old enough to drink in Britain. That's not true either. In many ways, it seems both a long time ago and yesterday, but the channel has, I think, evolved quite a bit since then. I daren't even look at that video anymore because of how embarrassing it is. But I'll say the same thing about, this video next week. And, it's just always hard for me to look back on old videos. Always look ahead, straight at the camera. But if I wanted to, I could go back even further because there's footage of me somewhere on YouTube looking like some sort of tech runner from the 70s who's had too much to drink. And so for obvious reasons, I really don't want to sit through that, even though I had to add it as B-roll. Next question from Neanderthal Highway. My question is, when will you return that library book? The book in question, for those of you not aware, is this, America, an aerial view. And this is a book that, indeed, I did take out of my school library when I was 12. I do remember in the early weeks after doing that, actually, I was sent some sort of follow-up to return this, and then they just sort of stopped. And I stayed at that school for another 4 years, bear that in mind, right? So they were obviously a little cavalier about their rule enforcement. And so I just took that as carte blanche to keep this thing from now until the end of time. And by now, I mean 1993. But it is a beautiful book. And I like the thought that I'm going around the United States now doing what this person did, albeit not by helicopter. And I'm taking my own photographs and making my own memories and maybe one day my own coffee table book for you to read. Sticking to this topic, actually, Mark asks, what states have you not yet visited? Because I'm now halfway through, that means I've got to name 25 states that I haven't. So I'll use this as a guide, even though I could just use the internet because it's right in front of me. And what's useful about this book is that whenever anybody asks me which states I have or haven't been to, I just turn to this page because it's got them all listed alphabetically. Now, I don't know if this is a weird quirk of the universe, but I've never actually visited any of the states beginning with A, although I have lived in half of the states beginning with I. Not to suggest that I'm self-centered. But I've also not been to Georgia or Hawaii or Iowa, even though it's nearby and begins with an I. I've not been to Kansas or Louisiana, Mississippi or Montana. And just like Alaska, I've yet to visit Nebraska. And how many pictures have I taken of Nevada? Nada. North and South Dakota? Not one iota. And the same goes for Oregon and Oklahoma. Oh, and I forgot one, Minnesota, though I have been to an airport there. The same is true about Dallas-Fort Worth, but the only thing that you can count about layovers is the airfare. And I've not been to Rhode Island, the Carolinas or Vermont Vermont, and perhaps by the time I get to Wyoming, I'll have been to the lot. I don't know why any of that rhymed, I just felt a vibe. And appropriately, Deanna asks, when are you coming to take your Alaska State Capitol picture? And I don't know, is the truth of it. I mean, we sort of get an idea to go visit places and then we do it. I think that Alaska could happen next year. It could happen 5 years from now. But I do know this. People always say that when they visit the 50 states, often Alaska and Hawaii are the last to be visited. And I want to buck that trend. I want them to be the second to last, or just maybe earlier than that. I do want to see Alaska. It looks beautiful. I want to see all of these states. So if you were watching this video and you heard my list and you thought, Lawrence, why haven't you been here yet? Or get here now, or come here tomorrow with your wife and a sleeping bag. You know, not if it's in the south, because it is hot there. Probably if it's Alaska, right? If you're thinking those things, it's okay, be patient, right? I'm being patient. I intend to get to all 50 states, but it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. But Deanna brings up a good point, and I mentioned this in my Pennsylvania video. I have an unreasonably stupid goal to photograph every Capitol building, ugly or beautiful, in the United States. And I will achieve this. I will achieve it. And when it happens, when I get that 50th, whether it's in Wyoming or who knows where, you'll be along for that very emotional ride. And the final question today comes from Hero1117, who asks, still need to know, what is your exit music? That exit music is a piece that I composed, just like all of the music that you'll now hear on Lost in the Pond. It started out as a thematic piece during last Christmas, and then I realized I quite like this tune, let's use it in my videos, but take out the jingle bells. And if you're wondering what it's called, I haven't named it yet, except to say that the file name was christmasmusic.wav. I don't expect it to chart anytime soon. And related to this, Tonya asks, is your music available online somewhere? And the answer is right here on this YouTube channel. But with Christmas coming up, maybe I'll launch an album so that you can hear me in the nation's elevators. That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below some of your questions. My name is Lawrence Brown. You can ask me questions on Twitter at LostInThePondUS. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the pond. And a huge shout out to my patrons, without whom none of this would be possible. If you would like to become a patron of Lost in the Pond, you can do so today at patreon.com/lostinthepond. Until the next video, goodbye.